Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Since starting with intarsia back in 1999, my rough count estimate is going to be that I'm somewhere approaching 60 completed intarsia pieces in the 12 years since I've been doing that. Intarsia is the art of selecting woods, arranging their grains, sculpturing them to complete a picture. And it goes back to the early 1500s, or the 15th century with, in Italy, with the artisans down there that started this. When I'm cutting, I'm really cutting small pieces. And several years ago, I quit using a bandsaw because these pieces are so small, and a bandsaw is not forgiving. You know, take your finger and I found out I was cutting pieces and then trying to catch them at the back of the blade, and so then I went into scroll sawing, and since then they always say with a scroll saw you can't even cut your finger. I had my third grade grandson spent several hours just over the weekend starting his first scroll sawing, so he could be maybe a future intarsia artist, who knows. These grapes here they're all individually cut and hand shaped, and they're actually on 3 different levels. That gives that 3-dimensional look. And it gets so crazy when you start doing these pieces that I have to number everything on the back because I could never get it back together again because of the different levels that are supporting this, and then because it's got to fit just a certain way. And how I got into intarsia work is that I used to build birdhouses, and then all of a sudden for one birdhouse I hand carved with my sanding tools a black lab, and I put it on the porch, and then I did a boat, and I did a fish on a cleaning table, and I got all that, you know, and I thought, God, I like this. I need to find something else. And so I think maybe it was my wife found it, or I got introduced to intarsia, and I was able to self-teach myself with their manuals, and this is where I've progressed from that. And that's the thing is to create the 3-dimensional look when you look at it. The coloring all comes from whatever I can find in the wood. So when I go to any place, I always look at their wood because I'm looking for a certain grain. If it catches my eye, even though I don't have a piece for it, I like to buy it and take it home so that I've got it. You never know when I'll need it. The pattern comes to me like this. The first thing I do with a pattern like this is I go down to one of our local printing shops, and I have this reproduced on black and white paper because I like to lift the ink off of the pattern. And just by pressing this heated tool, following over the outline, it will pick up the ink that the copier uses to reproduce. These are all pieces for the hummingbird. As you can see here, there's like 15 pieces in the wingspan that we have right here. I save pieces. I knew I needed a red for the throat of the hummingbird because I wanted to use that in there, and so we'll go over to the scroll saw and I'll actually cut a piece off of here. And one thing you do is when you're cutting hardwoods, because it's so easy to stress your blade, is that I like to check to make sure I still have a vertical edge on here. And so periodically as I'm cutting, I will also keep checking with that. So that is one of the many pieces. There are 25 pieces of wood here. I have a solid maple sunflower center. It has poplar petals. I will join all the components into one using carpet tape, and so that when I'm shaping this, I get an equal symmetrical texture all the way across, as opposed if I carve these two pieces apart, I'll get different thicknesses and then I'll just be chasing one after another. I know that this is going to be coming into the frame. Once I've completed the shaping on that, then I'll do is finish fine sanding it. I'm using different types of woods, my poplars, my walnut hardwoods. It's all hardwoods and it's on a birch back, which we will also seal. And it's a polyurethane seal that we'll put on there. And when I'm finished, I'll have at least 3 coats of varnish hand rubbed into that. So there never has to be any additional finishing. If you have indentations, you have to really try to sponge it in there. There are 10 pieces of hardwoods in here, granadilla wood and walnut. There's some etching in here with a wood burner. And so what we'll do now is we will assemble this piece. Always have to be careful so that the amount of glue that you're putting on there is minimal. This piece is set up and glued, and generally what I will do is, and I find I have my best luck, is to set it aside and keep my fingers off of it. And I won't do anything with this now until tomorrow. I never get the feel of what I have, what I've created, until it's all done. And I'm able to take it up and I just prop it up on the wall. And that's the first time when it just becomes overwhelming, because now I see it in all of its natural colors. It's been, all these finishes are hand rubbed polyurethane. And say, God, I like it. It's a good one.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.